So this is Find It migrating from the backyard out into the world. But this is where we have some examples of those really small steps that you may need with a particularly fearful or reactive dog. So if you've got a dog who does go 0 to 60, so to speak, when they cross that threshold going from into the house out the front door, or, you know, same thing, out the back door into the backyard, fine, and then totally too scary. This shows some examples of kind of breaking that transition down into more manageable pieces for your fearful dog. Okay, so this is assuming, and you can adjust this to your dog, this is assuming your dog can now do that Find It behavior in the backyard, but outside is probably going to be too much to just go right out on a walk. Okay, so here we're actually going to just open the gate a little bit, the backyard gate. And if you don't have a backyard, or if the backyard is a little too tough for your dog, you can imagine how you might adjust this for your situation. So if you're trying to just get into the backyard at all, cracking the door to the backyard and working indoors might be the way you go. If you don't have a backyard and you're working on getting out the front door, and that's your only kind of option, it may be you crack the front door open or have a screen door and work indoors a bit of a distance from that open door. So you're still getting some of the street sights and sounds, but you're not out there. Now, of course, be careful if you're opening your front door, or if you have a screen door that's not very sturdy, make sure you have your dog on a leash even though you're working in the house. Okay, so this is Coco in her backyard, and that gate behind Rachel there is the gate that goes out to the driveway and the sidewalk. So she's starting again just with the really easy Find It's, where Coco sees the treat being tossed, and she does take a peek out the gate now and again, but they're kind of moving around, so she's not just staring out the gate worrying about it. And then instead of just moving right outside saying, oh, she can do it, let's move outside, we want to build a little bit more skill in the backyard with this little bit of extra distraction of the open gate before doing that. So here Rachel is tossing those treats near obstacles, so Coco has to move around and work a little bit harder to find them. Into some vegetation. And then, as we discussed just a second ago, she's going to go back to those sneaky tosses, the treat tosses that the dog does not see, so that she's working on, so we know that Coco is working on finding something based on the cue. So mom said, find it. Okay, I didn't see her drop anything, but I know I should look anyway. So this one's going to take a while. You see Rachel dropped it in front. But Coco's keeping her nose down and is eventually going to find it there. I like this behavior for a lot of reasons. If you have a reactive or fearful dog, if they can look down and sniff and find something, that's incompatible with them looking up, scanning the environment, looking for something to be afraid of or to bark or lunge at. So besides just being an alternative to barking and lunging, which we all want for our reactive dogs, it actually decreases the risk of them seeing the trigger in the first place, or additional triggers, because they've got their head down. I've got some singing in the background. All right, so now Coco has worked in the backyard with the backyard gate open a bit, so there's some street noise. Now she is going to be working back and forth through the gate. And again, you can imagine doing this at the back door. If your dog is fearful in the backyard, you might move up to a step that's, you know, crossing threshold back in, crossing threshold back in. And same thing with the front door. So here Coco has now moved out of the gate, but we can make another intermediate step here by having her, now she's in the driveway, but she's behind a parked car. So she's a little bit protected from the activity on the sidewalk. So that's another nice in-between step to ease her into sort of real life. Now she's out from behind the parked car, but still right next to the house, so not at the sidewalk yet. And always, if you're near a gate to the backyard or your front door, if you need to run for it, you've got a nice escape route. So, for instance, with Coco, she can move her. She can even use Find It, or she can just run if she needs to get back to the house there. All right, so moving toward the sidewalk. For those of you who have dogs who are reactive to other dogs, people, bikes, whatever, on walks, the sidewalk can be kind of a charged up location because it's where they see stuff that they need to react to, or they feel the need to react to. If you've got a fearful dog, they might not even have made it to the sidewalk yet, and that's okay. But you notice how many different little steps we're taking to get to the sidewalk. So now Coco's working a little farther down the driveway. And not always just closer to the sidewalk. She's doing a little bit of back and forth. She looks, and Rachel says, okay, let's move back away from the sidewalk. She did that little bit of kind of scanning. And worked up to doing some Find It on the sidewalk. And you can see there she looked a little bit nervous. That's a really big jump for Coco. She used to not be able to take food really at all out on the sidewalk. So, but that gradual progression and moving back and forth, watching her body language, if she needs a break, playing some fun games in the backyard, not always making it harder every single time, kept her engaged and helped her get to that point where now she can work on her skills actually on the sidewalk, where of course you need them if you're going to walk your dog. So after these first two videos on Find It, if you are already walking your dog and they're doing okay, hanging in there, you can work up to using it on walks, just when nothing is really going on. You can also practice on different substrates. Here, Rachel our other Rachel, was tossing treats for a day training client, Phoebe, into the grass, because that buys a little more time. She keeps her nose down a little longer. But if you haven't worked up yet to working on the sidewalk, there's nothing wrong with that. It's better to work at the pace that your dog tells you they need. So if they're too scared to eat, which often is perceived as not food motivated, it's too hard, back it up. Another thing you can think about is if your dog, is a little bit picky about food, but maybe loves toys, squeaky toys or balls or whatever, you can use those for Find It as well. They're a little less convenient, and then you have to get them back if you want to throw them again, so having a couple is helpful. But it doesn't have to always be food. You can use some other motivators as well. All right, so this will be going live on the YouTube channel later today, along with the blog. And if you're on our email list, you'll get the newsletter. I hope this helps answer some of your questions about what to do when your dog is only safe in one place, and as soon as they go outside, all bets are off. I did mention meds again, and I'll remind you again that that it is almost always worth talking with a veterinarian, and if you can, a veterinary behaviorist, about whether medication might help your facilitate and speed up your fearful or reactive dogs training. It has certainly made a world of difference to many of our client dogs, and my own personal dog Juno, who was in some of the earlier scenes on the first video. She was quite fearful as a youngster and got to the point where she wouldn't go out into our backyard to pee because she was afraid of men and bikes, and we live in a town that is very bike friendly. So despite training and being pretty persistent and consistent with our training, she got worse. And it wasn't until we got her on some anti-anxiety medication that was right for her that we could start making progress. And now she's she's not in here. Now she's really a pretty happy girl most of the time.